Welcome to the Business Performance Podcast, where we feature expert thought leaders and cover their best strategies, stories, and advice that you can use to successfully mature your own business performance. Now, here is your host, business coach, Henry Schneider. Hello, everyone. This is Henry Schneider with the Business Performance Podcast. And today it's my pleasure to speak with Lomit Patel, who's the VP of Growth at IMVU and also the author of an upcoming book called Lean AI. So, Lomit, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Henry. Pleasure to be here.
Okay. So, could you please briefly describe IMVU, the types of customers you serve, and what products and services you provide?
Sure. IMVU is actually the world's largest avatar-based social networking app. We've been around for over 15 years and have had over 200 million registered users in that time. And now we're across both mobile and desktop. And our typical customers are millennials, primarily females. And generally what people do in IMVU is that they come in, they create an avatar, and with that avatar, they end up making other friends through other people that create their other avatars, and they have create virtual like worlds where they can experience and have fun together. But it's all about friendship and about potentially doing it in a safe environment.
Okay. Now, it's kind of a broader question is quality. Quality is a broad term. So what's your definition of quality when it comes to the experience with IMVU?
So for us, the quality really comes down to the types of users try to attract into the platform. And for us, there's a couple of key metrics that we look at. One is if the person is actually going to become a payer, because we know if somebody becomes a payer or spends even a nominal amount in the first 7 days, that's a really strong predictor that they're going to stick around on the platform for a long time. The other thing that we look at in terms of quality is how often does the person actually come back and spend time in the product as well. So looking at engagement and retention, as well as in terms of monetization, how much money they end up spending in the product. And if they don't end up spending money directly in the product, the other way that we do monetize users is through advertising. So we also look at, the way to increase our advertising revenue is really based on how much time they spend in the product as well.
All right, thank you. So I know that Eric Ries, author of Lean Startup, was one of the founders of IMVU. And in the book, he talks about Vanity Metrics and how they were deceived initially by all that. So how did you get around that to actually get something meaningful that you can use to understand what's happening from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, and Eric's definitely right about the whole notion of vanity metrics. So for the way we get around that is to really focus on metrics that really help drive the business and are a great predictor to growth. And so ultimately for us, that really comes down to looking at the cost to acquire a customer. And when we look at a customer, the vanity metrics would be to look at registrations, right? Because you can optimize to bringing people in that are just going to register, but that's no guarantee they're going to stick around and spend any money. So we don't look at that. We try to look a lot further down the funnel, and we look at people that actually make a payment. So when we look at a customer, we're actually optimizing towards a paying customer. And then the other metric that we look at is how much money are we actually spending, and what is our return on investment on that money. And so, by optimizing to both of those metrics, it really sort of shaves away a lot of the vanity of just trying to drive people in for the sake of driving people in. And it actually helps drive a higher quality of user that's not only going to continue to stick around, but will also provide more value into our ecosystem as well, because they'll be more engaged in the product because they've spent some money and they've been able to make more friends.
Okay. So exactly the user, what are they spending the money on?
That's a great question. And so one of the things that, I'm not sure if your viewers might know, but EarthLink actually is the largest virtual store in the world. So we have over 40 million different items. And so what people do is they buy these they're able to they buy EarthLink credits, and they take those credits to make purchases against different items. And those items are actually used to customize the look and feel of their avatar. So once they've created an avatar, as you know, in real life, you're not probably going to wear that same shirt every day, right? And so, once you start making friends on EarthLink and you start socializing, so a lot of people like to buy different outfits. So that's where they end up spending a lot of money, as well as they create different virtual worlds and environments where they invite their friends to come over and hang out. So it's a lot of virtual aspirational life that they would want to live,
Okay.
which might be different from their real life.
All right, so nothing really tangible, but it's all virtual.
It's all virtual, yeah. But amazingly, what what I've come to realize is, even though it's virtual, the feelings that people have around this, it does feel like real life to them, because they get emotionally attached to that avatar and the different relationships that they create on EarthLink.
So how do you get over the language barriers as you cut across nations?
So that's a good question. What we've tried to do, as I mentioned, we started in desktop. So the desktop app that we have is translated into, I believe, like 13 or more languages. So we cover the majority of the different languages that people have spoken. With mobile, we went into mobile in the past 3 years, and we have our mobile app currently is translated into Portuguese, because we get a lot of users from Brazil. It's translated into Spanish, that really covers a lot of Latam America, and we also get a lot of users from Asia Pacific. But right now the app is translated into Korean, but we plan to continue to add more languages in 2020 as well.
Okay, so if you're in the US and you form a friend in South Korea, how do you communicate?
So
Not necessarily common.
yeah, so a lot of the a lot of the conversations that happen, even with people that live in other countries, if the universal language that most people use is English still, because there's a lot of people that even though English may not be first language, but a lot of people that interact on the product are pretty educated, so they're able to converse in English. But generally, when it comes to English, a lot of our users, American users, have a lot of friends in the UK, in Australia, and Canada, because those are kind of like our top markets.
Okay. All right. So what's the biggest challenge that IMVU is facing today with business performance?
I would say our biggest challenge is really the same as any other company, which is kind of a hyper growth startup, which is, how do you continue to keep growing and keeping that hockey stick growth moving along? And it really comes down to really prioritizing the resources that we have, right? Because at the end of the day, there's a number of engineers that could potentially work on different features and improvements within the product. So prioritizing, which projects kind of get into the roadmap and which will have the biggest impact on the business. That's one area. The other area is always around user acquisition. How can we continue to get better, faster, and smarter about continuing to bring in the right quality of users? What we've done there, we've made some huge strides by really leveraging AI and machine learning, as well as a lot of automations around tasks and processes, which is able to let us continue to really be able to spend millions of dollars a month cost effectively without needing to add too many more additional headcounts into the team. So my team, as an example, my growth team probably comprises right now of about 4 people and maybe a couple of contractors, but we're able to kind of get away with being a really lean team because a lot of the manual processes that used to be in place have been automated.
Okay.
And
So,
and then the third challenge I would say, especially in this day and age, is that there's so much transparency out there where people go to user reviews and ratings. So trying to make sure that you continue to stay on top of that and continue to make sure that you provide the best user experience and or get back to users that may not be happy to ensure that you fix any of these issues pretty quickly.
yeah. So what are some of the common fears about those challenges?
The common fears about those challenges is ultimately, when it comes to building things, it's about, investing the time into that, but not really knowing until you really launch a feature to really know if it's really going to have the desired impact, right? So about getting, smarter around just projecting the outcomes and ensuring that, once you do these different features that it matches up to those outcomes that you had. And then, when it comes to user acquisition, the biggest challenge is in this day and age, people are more distracted than ever before, and so getting user attention is the hardest thing. And so more and more people have started pouring money into user acquisition, and so people are bombarded with different ads and messages, and so the challenge is always continuing to refresh creatives and really continue to figure out how you can stand out amongst all of that noise that's out there.
Yeah, now, but I guess you've got like a limited market too. I mean, at what point? I mean, at some point, you won't be able to attract any more people because you've maxed out.
Right, and and that's why we're starting to grow globally, because to your point, there's a finite number of how many users you're going to continue to get in the US and other English-speaking countries, which is why, this year in 2019, we started to make a big push into Korea and into Latin America by translating the product and localizing certain aspects of it to really match that users coming from those countries. And next year, there's a couple of other countries that we have on the roadmap too that we're going to be localizing and translating the product into. The ones that I know right off the top of my mind, which is slated to be approved, is France and Germany. So those are really good markets for us. And just to give you an idea, one of the ways that we sort of come up with deciding which countries to add into mobile is to really just look at the users that we have on our desktop product. Because at the end of the day, our product, in order to really give the user the best experience, they have to be able to find other people that speak the same language, so they're able to converse. And if we just try to go after countries where we don't have a lot of users, there isn't a lot of social interaction that happens, and so then the retention isn't that great. So we try to prioritize where we already have a lot of users on desktop in these different countries, and start there by translating and localizing the product. And then the other thing we look at also is the mobile penetration rate in those.
Yeah, so I would think a big market would be China, but there's also the whole question of censorship.
China is a great, it's actually a great market for us because organically we get a lot of users, but to your point, it's a really tough market to penetrate. And the way people come in to us right now from China is really getting around a VPN. And so there's and having talked to other companies that have tried to tackle China, ultimately you need to try and do some kind of joint venture or partnership.
Right.
And so it just takes a lot longer to get to really focus on that right now.
Yeah, until they come up with the Chinese version, which is
yeah, right.
I mean, I think the closest they have is WeChat, but that,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I, I mean, China's definitely advanced in certain aspects too, where when it comes to like because they live their entire life around the mobile phone, right? When it comes to
yes.
like banking, everything happens around the phone. But as you said, the censorship makes it really hard to kind of get in there without having the right partner. And then, there's obviously the intellectual property risks too.
And I've seen China is
Yeah.
rapidly advanced because I've been going to China since 2002. And it's only been the past 5 years that the cell phone has taken off there. And
Right.
people are actually borrowing and spending money on credit. Up to that point, it was just cash only. And
Right.
now it's all opened up and it's pretty wild.
Right.
So, okay, so could you share a story of how you've helped somebody overcome these obstacles and succeed in growing market share?
So what I would say, at least what's worked for me, and I've worked at a number of different startups that have ended up becoming successful, and I've joined a lot of these companies early. The best place to start is really to really figure out, once you get product market fit, which is obviously really important, but once you have product market fit, then then you really have to get obsessed about who the customer is, and by that, instead of trying to like go broad, too early, try to start small and focus on, who your biggest advocates are, and try to penetrate that audience, and try to create as much personalized experiences to really cater to that user, from the way you sort of create advertising that speaks to them, from the onboarding flow that you have to the experiences, to try and get them to really experience that aha moments within your product really quickly, that gets them engaged and retained, and then you can ultimately figure out how to monetize them. Once you get a good core set of advocates, then it makes sense to kind of go a little bit broader. But ideally, if you get really good advocates, and what I've found at a number of different startups, is they can end up becoming your biggest evangelists. And so, you could end up really tapping into leveraging a referral or word of mouth or viral campaign built off just those core set of users that could really propel your business pretty quickly from being, like tens of millions to kind of the 100 million mark. But once you reach a certain standpoint, you're going to need to figure out how to go a little bit broader, because you're going to have saturated that audience.
Mhm.
And that's where it really makes sense to really sort of identify, where do you see the vision of what the product is really going to stand for, or what the brand is going to speak to, and then try to, and that involves doing qualitative and quantitative research, and trying to figure out what's going to be the next best audience, and then try 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 to tackle that audience. And the idea on doing that is to have patience, because when you start going after new audiences that aren't really your core, it's going to take a little bit longer. It's going to take a number of different interactions and touch points to really educate them, and to try and get them on board. So, but the idea is, don't tackle that until you've got a good, healthy flow of users that you can leverage as your cash cow to fund that next layer of growth.
Okay, so let's talk about your new book, the Lean AI. So tell us about that, and what are the nuggets of wisdom that you've got embedded in there?
So Lean AI is primarily based on the great wisdom that Eric Ries has already shared about the Lean startup. And anybody who's read Lean Startup, clearly was, a great introduction to how to come up with the right product, and shorten the time to market, which is about, instead of trying to build a perfect product, because then you're kind of taking a shot in the dark. You spend all this time, and by the time you get it out, there's no guarantee it's going to be the perfect product. And the reality is, to to get the product to become perfect, it takes a number of iterations and pivots along the way. And so based on that, the test, learn, and iterate model that Eric came up with Lean Startup, what I've done with Lean AI is the best growth teams use a similar systematic methodology to scale in user growth and revenue in the business too. And ultimately, it comes down to increasing your velocity of running experiments, because the more experiments that you can run at different points of the user journey, the better and smarter you'll get about what actually works and what doesn't work. And and not everything is going to work, but by running these experiments at scale, by leveraging AI and machine learning and automation to really be able to set these things up really quickly and to execute them, you'll be able to find those little nuggets along the way that ultimately compound over time. And that's ultimately the secret to any startup that you find that has really scaled up. It wasn't that they really scaled up with the right, with doing the things they initially started off with, but they were able to figure out how to go from where they started to where they ended up in a shorter time frame by running all these different experiments to really figure out, what's the right way to go to market, to find those users, to keep users, and then how to monetize those users. And that's what the book's about. Okay. Because the future of growth teams isn't about just bringing in more people to help you to do this. It's about leveraging technology and leveraging all of this great data that we now have access to, which we never had before, because all of this data now lives in the cloud. Mm-hmm. So getting all of these data signals is great, but it's only great if you can take those data signals and make some meaningful insights and apply that in real time.
Okay, so when you were dealing with AI and all that, there is the scare factor too. The people, how do you get beyond scaring people when you're doing this analysis and then targeting for certain things?
So, I feel, in terms of this scare analysis, sometimes I feel that's kind of hyped in the media as well a little bit. Yeah. The reality is, if you look at it out there, and I can just use myself as an example, and maybe maybe your example. I mean, even before we're like marketers, we're consumers, right? And if you look at the ads and the products that you end up spending money with, and the way they market to you, you want to get messages that are relevant to you, that you're going to respond to. You don't want to be getting messages that are not relevant, which is kind of the old way things were being done, which was spray and pray. So I feel that, ultimately it comes down to building trust. And the best way to build trust with your users is to always continue to give them value. And so in this day and age, if you have the data and you're not using that data to provide value to your users, then you're diminishing that trust. And at the same time, if you use that data to provide them value every time you interact with your users, then you're helping to build that trust. And that trust is the currency that's going to continue to keep that user around. Yeah.
Well, so as an example, I did a podcast interview several weeks ago with a company that's doing 3D modeling of rings. Yep. And after that, all of a sudden, an ad for them popped up on one of my feeds. And I'm not even interested in it, but it was just kind of how that even happened, just through the interview process.
Yeah, so I think that's more of an example of a retargeting ad. Mm-hmm. And what we've tried to do, and I'll give you a concrete example and about how we try to avoid that type of scenario with the way we leverage data. So one of the ways, because retargeting it's a key part of the mix of when you're acquiring users, because the reality is, people that come into your mobile app or to your website, they're not necessarily going to like interact or buy something right away, but you need to figure out like what's the right time to really kind of reach back out to them. And so there's two ways we sort of approach that. Based on people come into our website, we only try to target people that have actually spent a bit of time on the site and actually gone a couple of layers deeper into exploring the site. So we actually know they have a higher intent to really know, to wanting to know something about the product. And based on where they end up, then we try to sort of target them with a relevant ad that speaks to that part of the site that they might have gone to give them more information. But the other way, and that we've been doing this when it comes to mobile, is that the onboarding flow, when it comes to people registering on our mobile app, we know that once somebody on mobile, the user attention is a lot less than on desktop. And so you need to really be able to, you really need to capture their attention pretty quickly. And so what we try to do is we've come up with a system and we call it user journeys. And so we know, based on when we look at all our best lifetime value users, the users that either spend the most money or engage the highest on our product, we try to reverse engineer what are the behaviors and actions that they end up doing, starting with the first day over the first 7 days, because that's really crucial. And if and based on that, we create kind of like a flow chart. Are they taking action A, or are they taking action B, or not? And if they're not taking the desired action, then we would hit them up with a relevant personalized ad for retargeting that just speaks to them taking that first step A. And once they do step A and they don't do step B in the product, then we hit them with an ad that talks about step B. And so that way it's not spooky, but it's actually it's kind of like being a Sherpa, which is guiding them back into the product to get them to really experience the different hooks that we've created, because we know that once they've experienced those different hooks in the product, then they'll be able to really experience the true value proposition that we have.
Okay. All right. So can you spend a few moments talking about, tell our listeners a little bit about your backstory and what defining moment led you to be where you are today?
Sure. So my backstory is I'm actually originally from London in England, and I graduated right at the time where online and digital marketing was starting to sort of come to life in the US. And in the mid 90s, none of this was really happening in the UK. So I was really fascinated with wanting to learn more about this. So I ended up, coming over for business school. And then after that, really getting to learn more about online marketing, I was able to work at a number of different startups. And what I've enjoyed working at different startups is that you always get the ability to try a lot of different things, and in the process you learn a lot of things. So when I first started, I started on a couple of areas of online, but ultimately I ended up managing the entire growth teams at these different companies on all aspects of trying to acquire users, which involved all different areas of online marketing, as well as leveraging offline marketing like direct response TV, podcast advertising, radio, print, out of home. So and really about how to look at data to potentially provide insights on how to leverage and spend that money. And so I've been doing that now for over 20 years. And for me, I would say the thing that kind of keeps me going is just being curious, because the reality is I learn everything. I mean, I learn something new literally like every day. My attitude is either it's from the experiments that we're running, or or you know or even when we try things that don't work and we try it like 3 or 4 months later, it ends up working, because it's all about trying to figure out maybe just making a few shifts or changes in the way we first executed it that really ends up making it work later.
Well, I guess the other aspect too is that there may be a temporal component here. It doesn't work now, wait 3 months, and then all of a sudden it does work.
Right.
But conditions change.
That's right. And it's all about timing, and and you're right in that sense, because, as a product continues to get better, it, and people get to hear about it more, it makes it a lot easier to try and bring in additional people. to try and engage and use the product as well.
Okay. So, could you share an experience you had growing up that still influences how you approach business today?
So I would say growing up, I've always been one of those people, in school that always used to like asking a lot of questions. And it was really, for me, it was just having an inquisitive mind of like things that I maybe like because I have a couple of kids now, and and every time they keep asking me the question why, it kind of reminds me, well, where did I get that from? And now I know where they get it from. But the reality is, from a young age, I used to always wanting to sort of go a little bit deeper into really understanding something, and and I feel that has really sort of helped me as I've continued to progress in my career, because I think that there's a lot of power in in the way you ask questions, and it's not about uh, not knowing the answer, but it's about trying to figure out different perspectives on how people are coming to that answer. And so for me, I feel the other thing that just being young, I've always been curious about just learning about people and behavior and cultures, and I feel that's actually been really helpful in my career too, because ultimately, when it comes to like growth and marketing, your biggest role is really to be the biggest advocate for the customer and to really understand that customer better than anybody else. And so, just having a combination of that curiosity, of really trying to understand user behavior, what makes them do what they do, and in combination with just asking a lot of questions to team and just people, people in the company, to really figure out, are we doing the right thing by that customer ultimately?
All right. So here's a good question. What are your top 3 process or business challenges or concerns right now?
Top 3. So I would say, one of the top challenges really, as we already talked about, the value of data,
Mm-hmm.
but but the other thing with data is that there's been a lot of mistrust with the
Yeah.
way companies have been misusing data and abusing it, so to speak. And so, we already know, there's going to be more and more increased scrutiny and regulation that's coming in
Mm-hmm.
into the mix. And in California here, there's that there's a regulation called CCPA that's going into effect starting in January, which at the core of it, it's going to enable users of data, especially with technology companies, to have the ability to opt out and not let those companies use that data. And I feel that some way, shape, or form of that regulation is going to get adopted nationally in the US and potentially in other parts of the world as well. Because I know in Europe they have something called GDPR.
Yeah. Yeah.
The challenge with that is, if you're doing a lot of work with customer data, especially when it comes to leveraging AI and machine learning, you need to have access to user data to really be able to come up with those insights.
Right.
And so, I feel, companies just need to get a lot better about building that trust with users and really showing value right off the bat, in terms of like, if we have your data, what are you going to, how are we using that data? So being more transparent to customers about how you're using that data, and how you're going to be able to provide value. So I feel that's a big challenge. If companies don't get that right, then it's going to kind of make it a lot more challenging for them to really be able to use that data moving forward. The
Sure.
other challenge, especially in my area, where when it comes to like user acquisition, is that there's just a lot of fraud out there as well, and that generally happens because companies are always trying. There's always going to be nefarious activity around where you're spending money, and if there's somebody can figure out a way to try and get a piece of that pie, whether it's like bot farms that are just trying to create like fake accounts, or it's people that are just making like fake transactions just to try and sort of
Mm.
gain some. So I think just just continuing to stay on top of fraud, it's important, not only because, it costs the business a lot of money, but it also sends a lot of false data signals too when you're trying to build data models. And if you build data models based on bad signals, then you end up targeting the wrong people as well.
Yeah, it's garbage in, garbage out.
That's right. That's right. And then the third challenge, I feel, especially in this day and age, it's just when it comes to building teams and keeping people, because the economy is so good, and especially like in Silicon Valley and other big cities, and I know you live in Austin, there's just so many choices out there. So I think employers need to get better around how to retain users, um, um, how to keep employees engaged, how to keep them motivated, and continue to feel like they. Because ultimately, I think everybody wants to work at a company where they feel they're part of something that's leading to a greater good, and it's not just about earning a paycheck anymore. They look at the entire package, and part of that is, what does the company really stand for? What's the culture? What's the value? And how is it making a difference to the world?
Sure. Okay, so if you had to start all over again from scratch 20 years later, what would you do differently, and what would you continue to do the same that you've learned?
That's a good question. What I would do, what 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 I would do differently is, I would get to California a lot sooner. but seriously, I just feel like, a lot, at least when I went for business school, there really isn't a good way to really learn about how the real world's going to work out. It's good to have a good balance of learning to be creative, how to use data, but ultimately, it really comes down to sort of picking the right companies. And I feel, more than picking the right companies, try to pick the right managers, because ultimately that's where you really get your biggest learning, because your managers are the ones that can end up becoming that mentor for you. And I was fortunate to have worked with some really smart people that ultimately gave me the latitude and the responsibilities to continue to add more and more into my plate, and that helped me to learn and grow in the process. The um, and then what was the other part of the question again?
Oh, what would yeah. So what would you do different? What would you keep the same?
Oh, what would I keep the same? I would keep my what one thing that I've always been is having this enthusiasm, this curiosity, and this strong work ethic. I wouldn't compromise on that. But that, along with continuing to pick instead of picking companies, pick the right managers, I would say. And that's where, in combination, is really going to help you kind of, reach your fullest potential.
Okay, great. Okay, Lomit, we could just keep going on and on and on, but we're rapidly run out of time. So, how can people get in touch with you to learn more and find out more about your upcoming book?
Sure. So I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm always posting articles and sharing a lot of different learnings. And I love speaking at conferences. But the best way to get in touch with me is on LinkedIn. If somebody wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn and connect with me, I'm always happy to connect with anyone who reaches out to me. That's one good place. Another place, uh, my own blog site, which is lomitpatel.com. So people can reach out to me on my blog as well if they like. And then to learn more about the book, Lean AI, it's actually available right now on pre-order, but it's going to be released in March 2020. And there's actually a website that the publisher has set up. It's called theleanai.com. Just one word.
All right, wonderful. Okay, Lomit, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you. This has been a fascinating conversation. So, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Henry. It was great.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Business Performance Podcast with your business coach, Henry Schneider. For more episodes and business strategies, please visit welcome.ppqc.net/blog. That's www.welcome.ppqc.net/blog. And remember to subscribe so you can get the latest episodes. Thank you.